Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Gapeys Grow Room updates. In the last 2 weeks, we've had a lot of changes in the grow room. There's been about 4 trays of starts that I've taken outside and starting to get those acclimated and even transplanted a few things like spinach, arugula, and some of our lettuces. So let's take a look and see where we're at. If you've seen my last few grow room updates, you'll know what this is. This is our fig bin, but I might have to give it a new name because look at that, there's no more figs in here. So all that we have left in here is our kiwi vines, and we had a little accident. These actually started rooting and we're starting to get some green growth. And at that point I realized these were planted upside down. So I had to take all of these out, turn them right side up, cut off the roots, and hopefully they will root again. But that was kind of disappointing. You can see there is a little bit of green growth on this one, but it looks like it might be drying up. I'm not sure. So we're gonna have to wait and see how these do. Hopefully they'll root again. So here is our LED shelf, and this is where all of the figs are hiding. Everything that I started has rooted. So I had 100% rooting rate, which is pretty awesome. And I am having some problems. Almost everything has leaves except for this Campaniere here. So I'm having some issues with the Campaniere. I've got 2 cuttings of it and both are not really wanting to put out very many leaves. They were the first cutting to root, so we do still have some roots here, but the roots on this one aren't looking great. It looks like they are starting to turn brown, so I'm not really sure what's going on with this one, but I'm having a similar issue with the other Campaniere. Let me just pull that out. So here's the other Campaniere, and it started getting some green coming out on the nodes there, but it looks like it's kind of starting to dry up, so it's not looking good for this one. And this one, it's got some roots as well, but they're just not looking as healthy as some of the other cuttings. So let me show you what a good healthy one looks like. This one is the brown sugar crunch, and look at the root system on this guy. And it's got lots of leaves. It's my best looking one, I think, out of all of them. But a lot of them are looking really good. This one here is the improved Celeste, and it's got some really nice roots going on as well. So the Campaniere, I don't know, it just doesn't want to cooperate. But a lot of these are looking pretty similar. Now I am having a little bit of issue with the fig mosaic virus on some of these. So you can see kind of blotchy, almost variegated looking leaves on some of these. And this one is the, let's see, the Santa Cruz Dark. And you can see there's some pretty good root system on there. But fig mosaic virus is a pretty common ailment to some figs, and some varieties are just more prone to it than others. And I think I've heard that that particular variety does tend to get more of it. And sometimes they just grow out of it, and sometimes they don't. But it doesn't really seem to affect the fig tree too much. So I normally just kind of ignore it. There's not really a whole lot you can do about it. But we'll have to wait and see if it grows out of it or not. But some of these, I'm going to have to start repotting these into bigger containers here pretty soon. This half of the shelf that the figs are on are under the Spider Farmer SF1000. And then the other half is on the Mars Hydro TS1000. And I just posted last week a video comparing these 2 lights. And I was kind of surprised by some of the test results that I did, but I did pretty much every test you can imagine comparing these 2 lights. And under the Mars Hydro, we've got our onions here. So I've got the Sedona and Red Carpet, the Rosa Lunga Tropea, and the leeks over here. So these 4 I just trimmed today. So they're nice and short, probably about 4 inches or so tall. So I took off probably the top 2 inches. And then the Rosa di Milano and Blush I have not trimmed, so you can see they're much taller. So I'll probably prune those here in a bit. And then behind that we've got our Blue Velvet Honeyberry. So this actually produced some flowers out of this particular cutting, but I picked those off as suggested by many people because we don't want it to flower. That'll take energy away from rooting. So I took the flowers off, but it doesn't look like there's been much growth since I did that. So I'm not sure if these are going to root or not. I've heard it's a pretty challenging thing to root, so we'll see. And then on the end here, we've got our cup and saucer vine flowers. These are vines, and they do like to climb. So I decided to give them this little bamboo stake, one in each one. And they are trying. I've had to kind of encourage them to grow on it because they seem to keep wanting to climb on this cable for some reason behind it rather than the bamboo. And these two are pretty close to the same width, so I'm not sure why they keep trying to climb the cable instead of the bamboo that I gave them. But this one back here has even tried climbing the onions, and I keep having to take it off. So they do want to climb, just not what I want them to climb. We're going to start on the bottom shelf over here. So on this shelf is where I've got all of the peppers, and I did bring out my big heat mat. So this heat mat covers the entire length of this shelf, and that is a lot easier than putting out a bunch of little 10 by 20 heat mats. So we've got the heat mat set to, I believe, around 80 degrees. And we've got all of our annuum peppers here that we started about 3 weeks ago. There's still 3 that have not germinated. We've got our Frigatello. This was the one that I had the oldest seeds. It was like 2012. So that one is not germinated. And then we've got Beaver Dam. I don't know why that one didn't germinate because the seeds weren't that old. I think they were from 2020. And then Sakura back here, those seeds were from, I believe, 2017. So a little bit older. So since it's been about 3 weeks, I don't think these are going to germinate. So I'm probably going to end up tossing those out. And I have started repotting the peppers into individual containers. You can see the Wanks Yellow Hot here in this container. So I'm planning on keeping 4 of each seedling. I'll plant 1 in my garden, and then I will sell the rest locally. And so these are all the ones that I have not separated yet, and that is on my to-do list for this week. Now some of them, we only had a couple germinate, so like the Pasilla, we only had 2 come up. I think I planted 5 of each variety, but not everything came up. And then over here we've got our Chinense varieties. We've got Bikino and the Beth Boyd Scotch Bonnet. And you can see the Scotch Bonnet peppers, their leaves are, for some reason, really purple. And we did have a mustard 7-pot in here. Unfortunately, the seeds never came up out of the soil, so I ended up tossing those. I'm not sure why they didn't come up, but they didn't. And then we've got our 3 different tangerine tigers sourced from Rhiannon, Batman, and Matsutake. And they're doing all right. The leaves are looking a little bit yellow. They're getting a little bit tall. So I'm going to be repotting these into 4-inch containers here pretty soon. And hopefully they do better in that. And here we've got our cup and saucer vine that I had that seed stuck to the head of and removed. And it seems to be doing pretty good. Obviously not nearly as well as the other 2, but it's still hanging in there. So I'm going to be repotting that into a little bit bigger container here shortly. So here we've got our eggplants. We've got a Hansel, which I've grown several times before and always does really well for me. And then I'm giving a try the Mestiza Talong, and I got that from Second Generation Farms. It's an Asian variety. So this Gaby Hot Wax were the first ones that I potted up into these containers, and you could see how much bigger they're growing than all the rest. So the container size really does matter as far as how fast the peppers grow. So the more room they have, the better they're going to grow. So I wanted to show you the Matapeno. So the Matapeno, if you haven't seen it, is a variety that has a lot of white leaves. So we've got 4 of those, but only so far 3 of them are showing some white leaves. I don't know if you could see that. There's some white and green there. And then looks like this one, the leaves are completely white that are starting to come out. But this one so far is not showing any signs of white. but this is an F4 variety that I got directly from Matt's Peppers, so we'll see how they do. I almost forgot about our peppers in a can here. We just had the Hot Pops Yellow germinate just today, so we've got 3 of those starting to come up. And our Midwest Midnight were the first ones to come up. That's a purple leaf variety. So we've got 1 seedling in there because we had 4 of them sprout, and obviously I only need 1, so I took the other 3 out, and they are right here. So I've got 3 of those Midwest Midnights in the 6-cell tray, and I'll be selling those in the spring. Well, I guess it is spring, but later this spring. So this one here is the Sedona Sun, and this one is the only one that has not germinated yet. So hopefully we get something come out there soon. Here is all of our tomatoes that we just started a couple weeks ago, and I've already repotted them into individual cells. And we had all of our varieties germinate, and I kept 4 of each one except for Vilms. We only had 2 of those germinate, so I've only got 2 of those. But I believe I've got 4 of each of all the other varieties. And just like the peppers, I'm only going to be growing 1 in the garden, and then I'll be selling the extras. So those are all doing well. And then we've got another batch of lettuce here. This one is white-seeded Samara. And I decided to try using those Never Sink Farm mini trays. So this one is I believe there's 4, 8, 12. I think there's 16 cells in this one. And I have to admit, I don't like this one. I think the cells are just too small, and the soil just really dries out quickly. So I don't think I'm going to be using that tray again for anything. I can't think of anything else I'd want to grow it in. But I thought I would just experiment with the lettuce, and I'm not real happy with that size. They have 2 larger sizes that I have, and I much prefer using those. But the germination was a little bit spotty, and some of the cells have 2 seedlings in them. So I'm going to be potting these up into a different container here pretty soon. And then here we've got our Rio Grande Tomatillos that just started sprouting today. So we've got 4 seedlings up so far, and I'm sure there'll be more come up here pretty soon. This tray was in the back, and I just pulled it up so you could see it. But we've got our nasturtiums here. We've got a few different varieties. We've got Orchid Cream, Orchid Flame, and then this one is a Kaleidoscope mix. And then here's our potatoes. So we have 2 different varieties of seed potatoes. One is called, well, they're actually mixes. One's Nathan's Mix. So you can see how great that middle one is doing. That's Nathan's Mix. And the 2 on the end are called Kufi seeds, and that's also a mix, but we've only got one little seedling that has come up, and these have been in here for, I don't know, it's probably been about a month now, and I don't think any more are going to come up. So I need to really get these middle ones repotted into some bigger containers here, like today. And then we've got more lettuce that we started. I really, really love this Morton's mix, so I decided to grow some more of that, and I need to get these repotted as well. They're getting a little crowded. And then I've also got the Outrageous Romaine that I saved seeds from last year, and it is doing really good as well. And then back here, we've got our straw flowers. We didn't really have very good germination on the straw flowers. The seeds were a little bit old, so that's probably why we didn't have any of the dragonfire come up. So I might end up having to start some more of those. You can see we do have space for 1 more tray in the back there. So that is going to get filled up here before too long with all of these lettuces and potatoes I need to repot. So by tomorrow, that's going to be filled up. Now, these next few trays are going to be flowers. We've got our zinnias, Oklahoma Ivory, and Queen Lime Blush. And then here is our California Poppies. This one is our Alyssums. These really need to be repotted here pretty soon. And here's our dandelions. We've got a pink one, and actually we've got 2 sets of pink ones, and we've got 1 white one. And over here we've got our Portulaca or moss roses. We only had, let's see, 3, 4, we only had 5 of them end up making it. So really poor germination on that one. And then here we've got our pincushions, summer fruits, and black knight. We only had 2 of the black knights come up. And then we've got more zinnias over here. We've got Bernery's giant coral and Aztec sunset, really good germination on those. And then we've got marigolds. I'll probably start some more marigolds because that's usually a popular thing for people to buy. So we didn't have a whole lot in this tray, so definitely we'll be starting more. And then here we've got some chrysanthemum. This is called Fancy Pants. So we've got a tray here, a tray back there. And this is Clarkia, something I haven't grown before. It's a tower coral variety. And it's weird, it looks like the leaves are getting some little spots. I'm not sure what that's about. Hopefully that's normal. And then this is Amaranth, another coral colored one. This one is called Coral Fountain. So I seem to be growing a lot of coral colored flowers this year. And here's our one Rudbeckia that germinated. That's the Cherokee Sunset, so I've got in a little container all by himself. Here's one more tray of flowers. We've got our 3 different varieties of snapdragons here, and I have started topping some of these. So you can see this one has the top chopped off. So I'm trying to get these to bush out a little bit more because they are getting kind of tall and a little bit leggy. So topping them will help get them to bush out and start branching more flowers off the bottom here. And then we've got our carnations, the Chabad La France variety. Those are doing really good. And then we've got our calendulas, which really need to be repotted. So these are on my to-do list to do in the next day or two. But we got 3 different varieties of those, and they're getting pretty big. And then our last tray here is the basils. So we've got our Genovese basil, purple basil, and Thai basil. And one of our purple basils, I don't know if you can see that, the leaf is really, it's like the leaves are kind of stuck together. And this is another herb that I like to top and get bushed out. So I'm going to actually cut this thing off at the top a little bit earlier than I normally would, because this leaf is not growing properly and I don't think it's going to get any taller the way that's growing. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, it looks like some of these other leaves are also not growing very well, so this particular plant might just have some kind of a defect. Now it's time to take a look at our germination tray. So this is the tray that has everything that has not yet germinated. And I just got this new humidity dome from Epic Gardening, and I love it because it's a lot taller than ones I normally use. And the standard ones, they always get caught on these large labels that I use. So the Epic Gardening one really does a lot better with my labels. So we've got our ruby red Swiss chard. So the Swiss chard I started, which actually I brought outside already. There wasn't a lot of variation in color, so I wanted to start some red ones to go with all the yellow variety that I have. And then we've got some more peppers, so I decided to start the last of my beaver dam seeds that didn't germinate, so we'll see if any of those come up. And then I also started some of the long cayenne, which I had tried starting some in paper towels a while ago and they just didn't germinate. So I've got some different seeds, so we'll see how those do. All right, lastly, I want to share with you what seeds I'll be starting over the next week or so. We've got our sunflowers, so I've got several different varieties. We've got panache, frilly, so I have never grown those 2. And then I've got lemon queen and Astra rose cream, which I have grown before. And then we've got a ton of cosmos. So double click bicolor rose is probably my favorite cosmo of all time. It's really pretty. It doesn't even look like a cosmo. It looks more like a carnation or something. And then these ones I've never grown before. Zinnia, Snow Puff, Cupcake Blush. And this one is a Korean cosmo, so I'm not really sure what that's going to look like. I think it might be pink. And then we've got Little Ladybirds. So this one is more of a dwarf cosmo, which I could use because mine always get so humongous. And then lastly, we've got our cherry tomato seeds. We've got some micro dwarf varieties. This one is called Gigi's Glory. This is a brand new variety from Twine and Trellis. And then we've got a couple new ones from Wild Boar Farms. This one is Mini Marzano. and Golden Hour. So those are ones I'm going to be growing in containers. And then these are our indeterminate varieties. Paulina's Secret Tomato, Barry's Crazy Cherry, which I grow every year. It's my very favorite. Tigerella, Gold Nugget, Gardener's Sweetheart, Tim's Taste of Paradise. So this one is a brand new one from Wild Boar Farms that a lot of people are really excited to grow. So that one should be a good one. We've got Tidy Treats, Mexico Midget. I've only got, I think, 2 seeds of this one, so I'm not sure if that one, how that one's going to do. And then this one is Red Pear, so just kind of a normal, traditional tomato variety that I just haven't grown in a long time, and I needed more red cherry tomato varieties. So that is it for this grow room update. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.